If you're looking to purchase a home in Washington State, specifically within Vancouver, Washington, and its surrounding cities, then there are some things you need to know before buying a home in Washington. And we are going to actually chat about that right now. Welcome back to Vancouver, Washington Living, and I'm Shastine, your local real estate agent in Washington, providing insights and education and updates regarding the city changes, newest communities, and upcoming developments, of course, that are going on in Vancouver, Washington. If you're going to buy a home in Washington, whether you are a first-time home buyer or somebody relocating into the area, there are some general things you will want to know. For instance, let's start with property ownership. Washington is a community property state, and this means that any assets or income acquired by either spouse during marriage are considered jointly owned by both spouses. So both partners have an equal 50-50 interest in all property acquired while married, regardless of who earned it or whose name is on title. Secondly, if you still owe on a mortgage and you happen to stop making payments on it, the state of Washington is a non-judicial foreclosure state. And that means that Washington uses a non-judicial foreclosure as the primary method. This process is actually faster, and it usually takes about 120 days from the time that the lender starts the formal proceedings. And there is no post-sale redemption period for non-judicial foreclosures, meaning the homeowner cannot reclaim the property after the sale. Another thing that you do need to know is that Washington is a escrow state, meaning that a real estate attorney is not used as part of the normal writing of a home offer or purchasing a home. The forms, of course, that we use to write those offers are drafted by a real estate attorney, so don't worry. And I do actually have my clients consult with a real estate attorney when it comes to more complex home purchases like seller carrybacks, where the seller is actually carrying the loan instead of a bank. During those times, we will, as real estate agents, have a real estate attorney come into that part of the transaction. But in general, purchasing a home in the state of Washington, you will use a real estate agent, not a real estate attorney. Now, because we don't use real estate attorneys, it is highly recommended that homeowners actually get what is called title insurance. And so title insurance is customary in Washington. This protection when you're purchasing a home, because the insurance actually protects you as a buyer from potential legal disputes over property ownership. And it also makes sure that the seller has the right to sell the property and that there are no encumbrances or clouds or liens on the title. So that's why title insurance is a customary thing that is usually added to title at the time that you purchase the home. Another thing that you will want to know when you're purchasing a home here in Washington is that when offers on a home are written, buyers in Washington choose to include an earnest money deposit when submitting an offer. Now, just so you know, earnest money is a deposit made by the buyer to show that they're serious about purchasing the property. And so you kind of have to think of it as like, hey, I'm really interested in this house and I'm putting my money where my mouth is type of scenario. So while earnest money is not mandatory, it does show a good faith intention to perform on the offer to the purchase. And typically it's around 1 to 3% of the purchase price. In some instances, like when you are purchasing with new construction, they can actually start at 5% or more when you're purchasing a new home, of course. So that's something to be aware of. Wow, it really started raining. Anyway, while you could be putting 5% or more on a new construction home for earnest money, there are instances, like for instance with pre-existing homes, to where you can get away with writing an offer and only putting $1,000 down. However, what you do need to know is your earnest money is at jeopardy in a purchase and sale if you do end up backing out without a legal excuse. Rain or shine, I'm continuing this video. I'm just telling you right now. Just so you guys know, buyers have 9 different ways that they can back out of a transaction that is considered a legal excuse. So don't panic. It does require, of course, the skill of a local real estate agent to make sure that those contingencies are actually put into the contract and that you're aware of them on when they actually expire in the contract. Let's talk about closing costs in the state of Washington. So closing costs and fees in Washington, they're usually typically around 2 to 3% of the home purchase price. And this will usually be dependent upon the lender, of course, that you use. But on average, you're going to see around 2%. Now, just so you know, there is no statewide mandate on how closing costs are divided between a buyer and a seller, although there are some lending types that do require that the seller pay a part of those closing costs. And so be sure to ask a real estate agent when you're in the midst of writing an offer on the type of loan that you have and how much closing cost can you ask for or is required of that seller to pay on your behalf. Oh, and I do want to actually kind of let you know about this. Closing costs are actually different than the down payment that is required for the type of loan that you are getting, like whether it's a conventional, VA, FHA, USDA. Each loan type will have a different loan down payment, and a loan down payment is different than your closing costs. So there's 2 different fees that are associated with purchasing a home that you should probably be sure to ask your lender about. But just so you know, now you've been told, Shastine told you. Also, unlike other states, sellers in Washington must provide you as a buyer with a completed seller's disclosure statement. And this provides all the detailing of the property's condition that will include the structural components of it, the systems, and any known defects. Now, with that being said, the sellers are only putting down what they know. And their answers on that are yes, no, don't know, or not applicable. And a lot of times those sellers have not a clue and they're filling it out to the best of their knowledge, which is why it's really important to do an inspection on the home, because that will be a key indicator from an outside professional, your inspector that you hire, that will be able to tell you anything that's wrong with that home, whether it's structural, mechanical, safety, dry rot, pest, they'll be able to let you know. But seller's disclosures are something that's required by sellers and is also a legal excuse that you can back out of the transaction with. You know what reminds me about this rain? I actually did a video on all things La Center, and it was like pouring down rain, and I was outside shooting a video. I just do this for you guys. I just want you to know this. Even here, luckily I'm under an umbrella today, but I am still here doing a video because it's really important for you to know about all things of Washington when you're purchasing a home. So with that being said, let's talk about closing, the big day where the home actually becomes yours. Okay, so you signed your paperwork. You were told that it's now going to county to have the deed recorded in your name. Just so you know, the possession date in Washington is the actual closing date unless the buyer and the seller agree otherwise. So if your home records, just so that you know, though, it may close or record maybe at 2 p.m. But just so that you know, our transactions read here that the seller has until 9 p.m. that day to get all of their remaining possessions, garbage and debris is usually how us agents put it in the contract, to be able to get out of that home. So even though you become the happy homeowner, yay, still you need to know that that seller has until 9 p.m. and closing and possession happen on the same day. There are probably a few other things that I could tell you in this video. However, because it's raining and now the rain is dripping in the back of the seat and getting my bottom wet, I'm gonna actually choose to end the video right here. But all of that to be said, when you purchase in the state of Washington, there are a lot of things that you need to know. And so it's really important to get connected with a very experienced and knowledgeable agent that is local to the area that can help you be able to find that home, negotiate the home, make sure it's a good home for you, and get it closed. And so I hope that you found this video helpful, and certainly reach out if you are looking to purchase a home. I would love to be able to work with you. But otherwise, if you already have an agent, great. I hope that you found this video helpful. And until next time, I hope you have a great home buying and selling day.